The Tennis Gambling Podcast and the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Nordic Fantasy. Play their fantasy pick'em for a chance to win times your money in NBA, MLB, MMA, NHL, golf, and more. Sign up today at Nordic Fantasy using promo code SGPN to get a 100% deposit match. We're also brought to you by NYRA Bet. Sign up today for a $25 free bet and a $200 deposit bonus with promo code SGPN25. Just go to nyrabets.com/SGPN25. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is currently early Saturday morning on May 4th, roughly 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm your host, Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Should be a fun episode, but a very short one because there's only one match to talk about. It's officially final time here in Madrid because we have a matchup to preview between Felix Auger-Aliassime and Andrei Rublev. So we're going to preview that final in a second. Before any of that, though, do want to remind everybody once again, before I forget, to like and subscribe on YouTube. Also, a reminder to rate and review the podcast on Spotify or Apple. So hopefully you guys end up supporting the show, not just by liking, but also by leaving some comments as well. I'll go through the comments section. Let me know if you enjoyed the show, and let me know if there's anything I can improve on moving forward. Also, a reminder that we have merch on the SGPN merch store for the Tennis Gambling Podcast. If you want to support the show as well, you can buy yourself a shirt or a mug. A lot of high-quality merchandise over at the SGPN store, not just for this show, but also for the 20-plus other gambling podcasts on the network. And this week's featured show is actually going to be twofold because we have playoffs, the NBA and the NHL. So make sure to tune in all week to the NBA and the hockey gambling podcasts for episodes to get you locked in for the exciting playoff action. We have the Game 7 in basketball coming up. We have a couple of Game 7s in hockey. A lot of money to be made in those playoffs, so check out those podcasts. Also, a reminder that it is Derby week. In fact, the Kentucky Derby is today. And on the Sports Game Podcast, they are going to be breaking down the Kentucky Derby while giving out some picks. So make sure that you end up checking out that show as the guys get you ready for the most exciting 2 minutes in sports. Now, as for the actual recap of the last episode, overall, very good week. We are currently on an undefeated run. I know we were in a really bad run about a week ago. We swept the podcast, I'd say, 2 episodes ago. Last episode, we ended up going undefeated, but we did not sweep because we had a play that ended up pushing. Same thing happened here in the semifinals because we won the lock with Rublev moneyline at minus 152. I said if you wanted the spread at about minus 1.5 or minus 115 at a cheaper option, you could have done that as well. But either way, point is he ended up getting there as he beat Fritz in straight sets. For the dog, same story. Ended up getting a push because we had Leheshka to win the first set and the match against Felix, and he got injured about 6 games into the match, so he ended up retiring. So as you can tell, this tournament is pretty much cursed because a lot of guys have gotten injured, especially in the latter stages of the event. We saw Leheshka, who we actually had the team total for the over against Medvedev, and Medvedev ended up retiring. Then Leheshka ended up retiring the match after. It's been a mess in terms of injuries, so hopefully nobody gets injured in the final, and hopefully we can move on to the upcoming event in Rome that has its own injury problems, which we'll talk about in the next episode. But either way, point is ended up going undefeated, but did not sweep as the dog ended up pushing for the second straight episode. But either way, time to actually recap the matches individually for the semifinals. Starting off with the first match, you had the only completed match between Rublev and Fritz, and Rublev kind of kicked his ass. Just simply put, you ended up seeing a close early part of the first set before Rublev got the break to officially clinch the first set 6-4. And then Fritz had a couple break points in the first game of the second set, could not convert, and then Rublev eventually got the break in the 2-3 game. And Rublev went up 40, ended up needing 3 break points, but got the job done at 30-40, and he eventually held on to win the match from that point forward as he won 6-3 in the final set. So impressive serving by Rublev. He got broken in the first service game of the match and then did not get broken for the rest of the match, so nice job by him. But he won in straight sets, cashing us the lock. He's been in great form, and hopefully he continues doing, what he's been doing in the final on Sunday against Felix. Now, for the other match, I already mentioned it. Felix was tied 3-3 against Leheshka in the first set, and then you ended up seeing Leheshka get injured. Felix was serving very well, though. He had 5 aces in the first 3 service games, and he had, I believe, not dropped the first serve point. He was 9 for 9. So, point is he was playing well, but it didn't matter in the end because Leheshka got hurt, which sucks. But either way, point is the fans once again paid for a full slate of matches, and they got basically one. So I don't know if they got their money back or not, but that kind of sucks if you were in attendance for that one. Moving on, though, to the actual preview of the final for this one. Looking at the matchup between Rublev and Felix. See a question here from my roommate, actually. How's it going, Sam? Who will win in a game of Connect 4, Rublev or Felix, and why? It's a tough question. It's a really tough question. You got the Russian against the Canadian. I'm going to go Rublev in this one. I think Rublev is, I don't know why. I feel like he's just a bit smarter. I know that he ended up getting thrown out of the event in Dubai, but I don't know. I feel like with the sense of humor, maybe he's a bit smarter than Felix. But the point is, it would be a close match. I'll put it that way. It's a 4 out of 7. It's a best of 1. I don't know. I'd lean Rublev in that one. Just thinking that Rublev would find a way to win that game. But anyway, segueing into the match here. Looking at the actual odds, Rublev is a pretty hefty favorite of about minus 250. You have Felix at around plus 210. For the actual spread here, you have Rublev minus 3.5 at even money. You have Felix plus 3.5 at minus 120. You can find the other game spread, though. Rublev 2.5 at minus 155, and Felix plus 2.5 at plus 125. Over-under in games is set at 22.5. If you want the set wagering, Rublev in straight sets is plus 105 or plus 110 shopping around, and you can find the over 2.5 sets at plus 140. Now, for this matchup, it is worth mentioning that Rublev has dominated the head-to-head, but it's kind of misleading because Rublev is 4-1 in the head-to-head, but every match has been close, which is kind of potentially telling because that tells me that Felix has struggled in big moments to actually break through against Rublev. So they faced off 5 times, including 1 time in Rotterdam this year, and Rublev did win in 3. But to go through the actual order of matches here, Rotterdam this year, Rublev in 3. Marseille in 2022, Rublev won in 2, but it was 7-5, 7-6. Rotterdam again in 2022, Felix did win in 3 sets. Faced off in Adelaide in 2020, Rublev did win in 3 sets. Faced off in Umag, their only clay meeting back in 2018, and Rublev did win in 3. So once again, a lot of really close matches between the two of them, but Rublev seems to always be on the right side of it. So we'll see what happens in this one, but I do think at the end of the day, you're looking at a spot where Rublev has looked like he's in great form. Felix has been gifted a spot at a Masters 1000 event, so we'll see if he is actually worthy of being there or if he just got the draw of a lifetime. To go through the actual draw for Felix, he won in 3 sets against Nishioka, lost the first set, then won the next 2. Beat Manarino on clay. Manarino is a terrible clay player, especially for a Frenchman. Beat Mensik 6-1, 1-0, as Mensik got injured and retired. Beat Ruud 6-4, 7-5, good win there. Then Sinner ended up not showing up. That was walkover, and he beat Leheshka 3-3 with a retirement. So Felix, if you're keeping score at home, has not played a full tennis match in 3 of the last 4 rounds. So Felix has gotten the draw of a lifetime, while Rublev has looked very comfortable against some good competition. Now, Rublev ended up beating Bagnes in the first round in straight sets, beat Fekina in straight sets. Should have lost the first set. He was down 5-0 in the tiebreak, but still got the job done in straight sets. Beat Griekspoor in straight sets. Lost the first set to Alcaraz, but then ended up getting the job done in 3, and then beat Fritz in straight sets. So he's beaten 2 top 15 players. Griekspoor is a pretty solid player as well. But the point is that Rublev has been in good form, and I do think that he's worthy of being this massive a favorite. Now, I think it's going to be a competitive match. I'm not saying that Rublev's going to absolutely destroy him, like 6-3, 6-3. You might get a breaker in there, maybe a long set. I thought about taking Rublev team total over for my lock. Unfortunately, though, 12.5 was like minus 160, and 13 flat was about minus 105. So I didn't want the 13 flat at minus 105 because I can see a world where it lands on 13. But as a result, I decided to not go into that market. I thought about it, but I can see a competitive straight set win for Rublev. Maybe it goes 3 if history repeats itself, but Rublev has been that good in this event. And I'm not trying to dismiss Felix's impressive win against Ruud in the straight sets a couple days ago. But I have to point out, though, the last 2 rounds, he's played 6 total games. I have to worry about rust. I have to worry about just overall form. And I do think that Felix was pretty lucky to get here. Not to mention the fact that it is the first ever Masters 1000 final for Felix. Will nerves play a factor? They might. We've seen Felix choke away big matches before. And I am concerned that if the match gets very close and if it gets extremely deep, you might end up seeing Felix struggle to convert some big opportunities. he might blink and Rublev might take the match. So I think Rublev's going to win. I kind of made that decision when I was watching the second and third sets of the Alcaraz match. Most of the third set, just watching it unfold, I'm like, oh, Rublev's winning this event. I just thought he was the best player that I've seen all week, and I think that's going to be the case once again. The issue is trying to find value because he's minus 250 on the money line, and of course, I'm not going to give that out. The games can get tricky, especially with how Felix has been capable of winning sets against Rublev in the past. So maybe the over, but I can see a world where Rublev wins in straight sets, and suddenly you're sweating out and over for a potential 7-6, 6-3, which you end up losing. So I think my main play is going to be the I think Rublev's going to win, simply put. I'll save my actual main plays for the post-break lock and dog picks. But at the end of the day, I do think that Felix is going to put up a fight, at least early. My question is, if he ends up falling behind, is he going to implode? He might, and I question his stamina because he has not played a full tennis match in 3 of the last 4 days, or in this case, 4 of the last 5, because there was an off day today on Saturday before the match on Sunday. So either way, point is give me Rublev. I just think he's the better player, and I think that he's regained his form after the, I'd say, disastrous performances he's had since Dubai. But either way, that's going to wrap it up for the actual men's final preview in Madrid. Now it's time to move on to the lock and dog picks. But before any of that, do want to remind me once again that we are brought to you by NYRA, and you can bet the run for the roses with NYRA. Score big on the Kentucky Derby with a double dose of rewards. Sign up today for a $25 free bet and a $200 deposit bonus with promo code SGPN25. Join now to claim your $25 free bet and $200 deposit bonus at nyrabets.com/SGPN25. I believe there was another piece about the Kentucky Oats, but I think that already happened. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm going to skip that part of the ad read because I'm pretty sure that already happened. But point is, we are giving you an extra chance to win $50 for Derby 150. Bet $250 each on Belmont at the Big A and Churchill Downs for a $50 bonus. Win or lose, visit nyrabets.com to opt in. NYRA Bets has everything you need to bet the fastest 2 minutes in sports with confidence. For expert picks, betting, insight, promotions, and more, visit nyrabets.com. And make sure to claim your $25 free bet and $200 deposit bonus at nyrabets.com/SGPN25. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. The NBA playoffs are here, and our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy, wants to make it a lot more interesting. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. Playing their pick'em game is as simple as selecting higher or lower on player stats like points, rebounds, assists, and so much more. Make entrants of all basketball or mix and match across your favorite sports. You can win 200 times your money, and it is a ton of fun. Underdog's also available in 30-plus states, including California, Texas, and even Canada. And they also have a lot of great lines for tennis. They have aces, they have double faults, they have breaks of serve. A lot of fun ways to make tennis viewing more interesting. Underdog's also going to be having a ton of fun promos. They have bonus cash airdrops, specials, giveaways, and more throughout the NBA playoffs. So make sure to follow at Underdog Picks. That's at Underdog Picks on Twitter to keep an eye out. So once again, a reminder that Underdog's available in 30-plus states, including California, Texas, and Canada. And they also just launched Champions, their player versus player format in Florida. So make sure to sign up with the code SGPN. And Underdog will double your deposit of $100. So Underdog Fantasy, promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast. Just finished previewing the matchup between Felix and Rublev. Now it is time to get into the actual lock and dog picks for the show. Starting off with the lock, I am going to go back onto the Rublev train. Give me Rublev minus 2.5 games at minus 155. I know it's a bit juicy, but I do think Rublev has been the best player here, and I do think that Felix has been gifted a spot in the final. So I do think that Felix might be a little bit overmatched in the spot. Now, Rublev has been incredible. He's only dropped one set in the entire event against Alcaraz. Even though Alcaraz's form might not have been 100%, he was the 2-time defending champion, and Rublev kicked his ass in the last 2 sets. So I do think that Rublev is really clicking, and I think that as a result, he's definitely more talented than Felix, which should, I think, showcase itself on Sunday. Now, Felix has not played a full match in 3 of the last 4 rounds, so I am concerned about his overall, I'd say, form, just based on potential rust or just maybe a lack of proper stamina with his, I'd say, luck potentially running out, having to play a set and maybe a game, or even less than a set, and getting basically a bye into the next round. I think Felix has been quite fortunate, obviously, and I think that Rublev is definitely capable of handling the opportunity. I think he will, and he has dominated the head-to-head. He has won 4 of the 5 career head-to-head meetings. So give me Rublev minus 2.5 games at minus 155 as the lock. For the dog, I am going to double down on Rublev. This might be a bit of a risky maneuver because if Felix wins the set, we might be in trouble. Give me Rublev in straight sets at plus 110. Once again, Rublev's only dropped 1 set against the 2-time defending champion. And Alcaraz, he's playing the best tennis that he's played in a long time. We know that Rublev, when he's on, is probably a fringe top 5 guy. Easily top 10. Felix is, I think, more of a top 20 guy when he's on. Point is, though, he's been, I'd say, off quite frequently for the last couple of years. But Felix is a guy that I haven't really been able to trust for the last couple of years on the show. And it is his first ever Masters 1000 final. So I do wonder if nerves will play a factor. We know that Felix historically has had issues winning big matches. And I do think with this being one of the biggest matches he's been in for, I'd say, over a year, because he's not really made any runs worth a damn in the Grand Slam events. I do think that Felix might struggle, especially if he ends up getting into some tough service games, maybe double faults a bit, maybe Rublev just forces the issue. But I do think you're going to end up seeing Felix struggle to keep his composure at various points in this match. Give me Rublev to win this one in straight sets. So once again, we're going to double down on Rublev here for this episode. The lock's going to be on Rublev minus 2.5 games at minus 155. The dog will be on Rublev to win in straight sets at plus 110. That's going to wrap it up for the show. A reminder that we are going to be back for the a tournament in Rome for the next episode. Another Masters 1000 event, so get ready for an episode per round. Bunch of injuries pre-tournament, which absolutely sucks. I believe that Sinner, Alcaraz, and Medvedev are all not going to play. Sinner was official. That got ruled a couple hours ago. Alcaraz, I think, officially withdrew from the event a day or two ago, and Medvedev's doubtful because he got injured in that Lehechka match. So Rome might be up for grabs. It might be a lot of potential long shot draws. We'll see what happens. Point is, though, we will cover every round. So stay tuned for that. We will be doing an episode, of course, with the lock and dog picks for the first round in general, with that outright pick, and hopefully we end up having the quarter odds as well. Until next time, though, find me on Twitter at Reichel Radio. Find me on the NBA show. Find me on the NFL show. Find me on the MLB show. And find me on the WNBA show. The season's starting up in a couple weeks, so get ready for WNBA content. Until next time, though, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.